Good morning. We had some actual snow last night, a little bit. Since nobody else is here this week, I've been parking right by the door. It's kind of nice. Dirty already. Okay, so we're gonna start this morning working on these planter openers, the Truvies and the Gage wheels. So we need to go through with our business cards and gap them all. I'm gonna have Brock do that. And I'm gonna go through and work on the Gage wheels, checking for any ones that need to be replaced and making sure that they are adjusted right. So let's do that. All right, so he's gonna check those, just same thing I did yesterday with the business cards, put one on the top, one on the bottom, and measure the gap. And what I'm gonna do is look for these Gage wheels that have spots like this, where it's all chewed up. So this one's gotta come off. We're gonna put a new rubber wheel on there. I'm gonna let him get out of the way. Okay, so I got that Gage wheel off. Now that it's sitting on the bench here, find that spot. You can see that a little bit better. We got a big chunk missing there. So we've got to take this arm off to start with. That would be that bolt. Should be a 24 millimeter. Okay. All right. That was close. That was almost my toe. Set that off to the side. Pick up the shim that I just dropped. Okay. Now we have to take apart all of these bolts here, which is going to require two hands so I can hold the other side. Can't ever be easy. Okay, once we get them bolts out, then we get our screwdrivers and start trying to pry these two halves apart. But Brock found an adjustment, or an opener that's out of adjustment, so we got to fix that. All right, so this one is about 1.25 inches, which is too tight. We want at least 1.5 inches of contact area there. So we need to make these blades come together a little bit, which means taking off a Gage wheel, taking the opener off, removing one of those shims, and then putting it all back together and checking it again. It has to be the hardest one to get to too, but start with the Gage wheel. You might need a bigger wrench. Well, he got it. Okay, once the blade's off, there's the little shims that we're talking about. We'll pull one of those off, put the blade back on, and check it again. And I'm going to get our torque wrench so we can make sure we get it tightened right. Check it again. Dude.
Almost 2 inches.
Not quite, 1 7/8 inches. So just taking that one little shim out of there gave us almost another 1/2 inch of contact area, or maybe even a little more. So that's what we needed to do there. Now we can put it back together and we're good to go here. back to this one. Okay, there's half, and there's our bearing. Doesn't feel bad, but if I have a new one, I might just put it in. Let's see. Okay, so this we can throw away and go find a new one. Alright, so I found a new tire. I've actually got one new one and one good used one, so hang on. Alright, I've just got some soapy water in here. I'm just going to spray this rubber just to help make it more slick, to get these to mount together better. Could use like a tire glide rubber mounting or rubber stuff. Well, that doesn't look right. I gotta make sure I got the right wheel here. The drill uses these two. I gotta check part numbers. Alright, well, this is the right wheel. If the part numbers match, it's just gotta stretch a long ways, because this has gotta fit. This metal part here, this outside edge, has gotta fit inside to this ring. And we ain't even close to that, so we may have to press it. I was hoping to draw it together, but we may have to press it. So I'll fit that side in. And then we can fit this side in. And it's important to make sure all your holes are going to line up. Yeah, wowza. Alright, we're going to have to press it. I'm 100% sure of that. All right, well, I broke the cardinal rule of not making yourself look like an idiot on YouTube. I filmed the first one that I was doing while I was still trying to figure out how to do it. So we're gonna ignore most of that and redo this. But anyway, the first one, I've got it back together. We had to draw it together with some bolts and stuff. Once we got one half in, then the other half went in relatively easy, just drawing it together. So I'm gonna bolt it back to the arm, put this one back on, then I'll show you the process on another one now that I know what I'm doing. Okay, so since I can't get that to fit in there, we're gonna take this back to the press, and we're gonna press in this piece here. So back here in the back of our shop, we've got a fancy, not so fancy hydraulic press, manual pump hydraulic press, and we're gonna use that to push these plates, or yeah, into this tire, basically. No, I don't want that under there. One at a time here. So we're gonna do this. I've got some rubber lubricant stuff. We're gonna use that to lubricate up the tire so that it slides in there a little bit easier, because these are gonna be tight. All right, we're gonna make Brock pump here for a second. Yeah, I might have to get our screwdrivers to pry this out a little bit, but it might go. Get it tight there. Okay, and now we're putting some pressure on that. Hopefully it will slide into where it needs to go. It's moving, but we're just collapsing the rubber for a second here. Keep going. Yeah, I'm gonna get my screwdrivers. Hang on. I think I can kind of use these like tire iron to help get that into the gap where it needs to be. Yeah, definitely there. There, it went. Sweet. Just about in. Keep going a little bit yet. All right. Now the other side, I think we can draw it in. So we're going to go take it back up to the shop. Put some slickum on the other side. And we're going to try and line that up and just draw it together. Okay, so I've got it so that the holes are all lined up with each other, because you can get the outside ones lined up, but not the center ones. You got to make sure you get them both. We've got the bearings set back in there, and then I put a long bolt in on opposite sides, and we're going to draw them up, and then we'll just keep working smaller bolts and going around the circle until we get them pulled together.
I'll use this this time so you can.
What do we do? Bolts. Is this one gonna work? Nope. Something just longer than that.
There you go. Perfect.
Back to this other one.
So we can go to the top.
Let's different bolts in.
Yeah.
Got it. Now we can put the regular bolts back in.
Looks good.
There. Okay, so now that we've got the wheel back together, we can put the arm back on. It is very important to make sure you get the 3 spacers in there, otherwise this arm will hit these bolts. There. All right, well, we've got one more gauge wheel there and then another one here that need replaced, and we've got to check the ones up top yet, but I don't have any more, so we're going to have to get some more coming. And since I used up all the ones we had in parts, I'm probably just going to order like 4 of them, and that'll be enough. So our seed tube sensors that Brock washed yesterday are dry, so he's going to put all those back in the rows. I am checking gauge wheels to make sure they're adjusted right, and I just found one that's not. So this side here, it rubs on that opener, and it's pretty tight. I like that. This side here, though, wait a minute, was it this one? Maybe it was this one. One of these was a little bit loose. I think it was this one. That one's just not quite touching the way I want it to. on the opener. So we're going to take this bolt off. We're going to take a shim out from here and move it out to this side, which will slide that whole thing in. Actually, yeah, we could just try and adjust this a little bit to get a kind of a minor, but I think we need to shim out of there. Okay, well, I got all the gauge wheels checked. There was 3 or 4 of them or so that I had to tweak and adjust slightly. Only one of them that really needed the shim moved. On some of the rest of them, I just tweaked this big nut a little bit, which puts a little more or less tension on it so that they move right. You want them to drop back down, but be tight. That one's really good. So Brock's getting the last of the sensors, and then we're going to lower this back rank down and be able to check those, see if we need to get any more gauge wheels for those ones. We can get the no-till coulters off, and we can pull seed tubes and get those washed and wash the whole thing in general. So putting those back ranks down so we can get to them. Ew, it's dirty. Gross. Brock got the rest of our no-till coulters off of here, and he pulled the seed tubes out and washed those. He has got to leave here, you know, early afternoon because apparently he's got to work tonight. So I'm going to have him wash these back row units with the power washer here before he leaves, and then that will be done. So much better when I don't have to do it. All right, Brock did some washing, but he had to take off, so I think I'm going to do a little bit more washing. He did okay, but we still got a few spots that could use a little bit more. Probably just do this, and then we'll call it good enough for working on the planter today while we let things dry out, and we'll come back to it tomorrow. He went through, like I said earlier, and took all the no-till coulters off, checked the seed tubes, washed all those, and we put them back in. So that stuff is done and good. We just need to clean it. We need to check the gap on the openers and adjust the gauge wheels. There was one right here that's going to need adjusted, so we'll get some more of those coming, and then we can get those changed as well. And then we'll pretty well be done with the row units until we get our coulters, and we can put those back on. And I've got some kits to replace some of this stuff in here to make these a little bit more solid so they don't have quite so much wiggle to them. I was considering doing some stuff with these parallel arms. I had a buddy of mine who's worked on planters quite a bit come and look at them, and he didn't think they were too bad. So we're going to let the parallel arms and that stuff go for another probably couple years yet, because they really aren't that worn. So that's something else. We still need to fix that tire. That tire's a whole lot easier to fix once I fold the planter up and lift that off the ground, so that's why I haven't done it yet. I'm just kind of waiting to do that. Well, that's about as clean as this planter is going to get. She's not perfect, but it's not too bad. So tomorrow, after this thing dries, we'll go through and adjust these back openers and gauge wheels, and then that side of it will be done. Row units can go back on, I think, at that point. Hopefully I'll get my coulters tomorrow. We can get those put back on. We aren't going to have it done by Friday. What's today? Wednesday. But we should be able to get it out of here early next week and get the corn planter brought in. So that's a good thing. Since I've got the fertilizer and chemical stuff pretty well figured out, I'm moving on to some the next steps in my planning for 2021 crop year. This is my spreadsheet with all of our fields on it and the crop plan and stuff. I did not have all of the soybean varieties placed in what field we want to plant them in, so just kind of quickly here. I've got a spreadsheet with all of the hybrids and varieties that we buy and plant and how many of each, and then on this spreadsheet I've got all the fields, the planting rate, how many units I need for each field, and I can go through and decide what variety I want to plant there or what 2 varieties we want to plant and kind of place them all. I'm kind of considering things like maturity. So over here I've got a column of whether or not we're planning on planting wheat there in the fall. If we are, we want to be able to harvest those soybeans early first. So I'll plant our earliest soybeans in the fields that are going to go to wheat. And then it's placing them by soil types and which hybrids will work best in what fields and that kind of stuff. So got a pretty good list here. I think I'm done with the beans. I had done the corn earlier this fall, so that is done as well. It tells me how many units of each I'm going to need for that field and all that stuff. So now that I have that information, I can start making up my variable rate seeding maps. I'm not going to do that tonight, but that will maybe start tomorrow. I'm going to do it on my John Deere Operations Center this year, which is a change for me. I've been using Apex in the past, so I got a little bit of a learning curve to figure out how exactly that's going to work. But that's my plan, so that's the computer work that I've been working on here this afternoon. All right, well, it's time for me to go home again. And we'll be back tomorrow. We'll work on that planter some more. We're getting close to having it done, so that is a good thing. I'm going to keep working on my computer stuff, getting the prescription maps and everything that we need to do there done, because that stuff's all getting to be pretty important to get done here too. So anyway, have a great night, everybody. Thanks for watching. Hit that like and subscribe buttons for me, please. If you have any questions, comments, leave them down below. We'll see you guys later.